All right, thank you. My name is Kingsley Bangswell, team leader for Youngsters Development Initiative, a youth group that builds and strengthens young people involved in development work in Nigeria and across Africa. Yeah, for so many reasons, the election is very historical and I would say very transformative in the sense that we saw a lot of firsts in terms of this election. Let me start with the electoral process. We saw for the first time we're using the cartridges, we're using the PVC, high use of technology in the election. And it was largely successful, even though with some kind of hitches. For the first time, we also saw an election that was very data-driven and predictable. You could predict the number of voters in a state, you could predict the number of voters in a local community. While the result were coming out, people could actually do some kind of check to know if the results tally with the number of accredited voters. I mean, we hadn't seen that kind of process before. And then for the first time also, you're seeing an opposition mobilize, rally across the six geopolitical zone and able to get the two-third majority and win in about 24 states to be able to oust an incumbent president. So you see a lot of firsts. But for me, what is dynamic is that you could hear the voice of citizens. And the question, the debate is whether was it that citizens have become more informed or whether citizens were tired of the poor performance of the government. So, but I think what's critical is that citizens spoke and said they wanted change, and then the president himself showed a lot of maturity by conceding defeat and making that what I call historic phone call to his opponent when he lost, which to a large extent doused the tension and redefined the entire direction and landscape of the entire electioneering story. If Mr. President, if ex-President Jonathan didn't take that step, we do not know how things will have gone further. But I think that's something that is very remarkable, yeah. Yeah, I think the dissatisfaction that, fueled this kind of mobilization to a large extent came from young people. I think it started in 2012 when January 1st, people were rising with the hope of new policy shift that will improve conditions. There was an announcement of fuel increase, fuel pump price, and people mobilized, and young people started that mobilization. I think that sparked a huge dissatisfaction with government up until the 2015 election. So from that moment when young people mobilized around the fuel pump price, that mobilization didn't stop. That dissatisfaction didn't stop. So they continued mobilizing around that and other, shortcomings of government. So when the election came, it was so easy to, mobilize the little pockets of voices across the six geopolitical zone. I wouldn't say there was one real huge coalition of young people, and I wouldn't really say there was one key issue because Nigeria is a very dynamic country. People in the southwest were mobilizing around their own issues. People in the north were mobilizing around their own issues, but you could really say that young people mobilized, they got involved. There was that general dissatisfaction. People wanted change, and then young people were at the fore of that. They used social media, they used workshops, seminars, rallies, all kinds of processes. But more importantly, they went out to make sure they got registered because they began to understand that if I didn't register, then I won't be able to participate to express my desired change during the elections. Yeah, I mean, the campaign was very, very successful. And during the election day, the hashtag Vote Not Fight was the highest trending hashtag, followed by Nigeria Decide. So that speaks to the success and the buy-in of that campaign. I think the starting point of the campaign, what made it successful, was the phrase, Vote Not Fight. Because in 2011, there was eruption of violence before the election, during the election, especially after the election when the result didn't favor the candidate from northern Nigeria. So, and then even the corpers, National Youth Service Corps members lost their lives during the election. So people already know that election is associated with a lot of violence. There was fear, there was apprehension, there was all kinds of prediction, religious prediction, and then and others. And so there was that general sense in that we wish the election could be peaceful. So the moment a campaign came up that said, vote not fight, election is not war, it resonated with people's emotion, it resonated with people's expectations and feelings. So it was easy for people to buy in. And then we used a celebrity. His name is Two-Face Adibia, who is one of Africa's, successful celebrity music stars from Nigeria, who has been non-partisan. We worked with him in 2011, so he signed up to be part of this. So he also has huge appeal because before then he started a peace project. He wanted to raise 1 million peace ambassadors nationwide from young people. So that campaign was already on. So when he now leveraged on this and became part of this, he just continued to build the groundswell. And then we worked with young associates of ours through Youngsters Project across the 6 geopolitical zone, organized rallies, visit to traditional rulers, visit to notable politicians. The then Senate president signed, the speaker signed, leading aspirants signed, even the Bring Back Our Girls convener, Dr. Obi Okwesili, also signed up. So when important people like that were signing up, then other celebrities even joined in, then on-air personalities and radio and television stations signed up. So everyone signed up. Even the media houses started using that phrase. So I think it was such a successful thing because it resonated with the fear people had about the election. INEC itself signed, Professor Jega hosted us, signed up the pledge and promoted it largely. In terms of impact, it was huge. Over 100,000 likes on Facebook. The short promotional video we did had over 28,000 views on YouTube. Nigerian Union of Journalists came together and partnered with us to do a peace day, 27th of March before the election, and then all stations were asked to play the video and audio free of charge. So, and on the election day, it was one of the most prominent airplay in terms of video and radio, because when the election started, in some part of the country, the card readers were not working. For instance, from the community of the president couldn't get accredited with the card reader. The card reader rejected him, the president, and it was live on television. Meanwhile, the president, General Buhari, was smooth sail. And then that of the president didn't. So people started saying, what is going on? There is an agenda. There's so all kind of stuff. And then on Facebook, everybody started saying, look, let's do this. We're going to vote and not fight. So it was really successful. And I think it contributed to the peaceful outcomes of the election. Yeah, so what we did was to say, as a young person, you want to come for this concert where Two-Face is going to be performing. You're not going to pay, but you need to show us your voter's card. So if you show us your voter's card, then you get, let's stack your ticket. You can come in for the concert. But now, while you show us that, you'll be given a ticket. Now, what's a ticket? The ticket is a pledge that says, I pledge to vote and not fight during the election. So the stud allows us to get your phone number, your email, your gender, and your location. So on your election day, we had over 20,000 or so GSM numbers we were sending out SMSs to on the election days to say, remember you made a commitment that you will vote and not fight. And please, if there's any form of violence in the community, quickly send an SMS to this number or to INEC and all of that. And that also helped to contribute to the conversation on that day to make sure that that message was resonating in the minds of voters and citizens.
And did people respond?
A lot of people were testing. The Facebook page was buzzing with, comments, questions. People were saying, hey, we're here, it's 12 o'clock, INEC officials are slow, the card readers are not working and all of that. So we got enough response to say that people bought into that. Yeah, I voted now waiting was a tool we came up with in 2012 after the general elections. It was a short film with a handbook encouraging young people to go out and engage elected representatives and then share with us their experiences. The report we had within the first year, when we really focused on how young people were using it, was quite amazing. Most of the young people were able to get airplay for that free of charge in different local stations, which is, if you ask me, was very, very, very successful. To get free airtime in Nigerian stations required so much connection and so much advocacy. And they got that across different stations in the 6 geopolitical zones. And then we got young people using this video, using the video in campuses, using the video in community centers, showing it in football viewing centers. Then we had young people taking action inspired by the movie. A young person in Ebonyi State, after watching the movie, decided to write the state government to ask why they didn't have prepaid meters, because the government had come out with prepaid meters, but there were no prepaid meters in Ebonyi State, and the neighboring Anambra State had prepaid meters. And through his interaction, he found that prepaid meters had been in the state for 3 years in the stores, and they've not been disbursed. So he wrote to the Inspector General of Police, he wrote to the Minister of Power, he wrote to the President. When I saw the letters, I'm like, excuse me, are you trying to start a war or something? He said, I'm practicing what you said in the movie, because the movie said you could write letters to government agencies to raise your concern, ask for an opportunity to visit and engage. And he did that. And within a month of starting that entire process, he got press the media interviewed him, and right after that, the state agency that was responsible for power activated themselves and began to distribute the prepaid meter. We brought the story on the network news to share how that video had inspired those kind of actions. So for us, it was huge success. And even recently, I remember I go to places and I'm trying to introduce myself, and I just hear, oh, you're the guys that did the I voted now which. And I'm like, excuse me, how did you get it? We didn't send it here. They said, no, someone came here and showed it. Someone came here and did something with it. So each time I travel around the country and I get that feedback, I feel very excited. We also got letters from Uganda, Zimbabwe, a few other places, young youth groups asking us that they wanted the video. And a couple of times we had to put it on Korea and send to them to say, hey, go ahead and use it as much as you can. Yeah, well, I want to encourage members of the World Youth Movement for Democracy to appreciate that platform, to have that kind of platform that provides solidarity, that also provides an opportunity to share across borders. You know, it is such a unique thing. So we should continue to leverage and take advantage of that and see how we can network a lot more better with each other across the regions and across the borders. Then the other thing I also want to say that we must continue to engage. We must improve our capacity to engage beyond the engagements of social media. I always tell young people, visit a government agency, find out what they are doing, find out what they've been established for, find out how you can assist, tell them you have expertise, you have some capacity, you want to volunteer, you want to help them be more efficient. My message is that our government have capacity to deliver good governance, but we as citizens need to collaborate with them and put pressure on them to make sure that they deliver that. And the one group of people that have the energy to do that, young people, especially for young people in Africa, where Africa is the only continent now where youth generation is increasing. It's going to be doubling in the next 50 years. Over 1 of every 4 young person will be an African, and then our workforce will possibly begin to compete with workforce from Asia and all of that. And yet, in terms of opportunities, we're far behind. It therefore requires that African young people need to raise their level of engagement, activism, put pressure on also institutions in the region, the AU and the rest of them, to ensure that we improve democracy. And I'll end by saying discourage leaders that want to stay beyond their terms, because that again begins to create conflict and crisis, which we don't need in Africa. We need peace in Africa so that development can be accelerated.